Alright, hello. It is Sunday, April 18th. I keep trying to say May. It's not May yet. But I did read like 6 books this past week. A lot of them were pretty small. But I mean, it's a lot that I got through, so we're going to go through those now. First up, I finished up Forgive Me, Leonard, Peacock by Matthew Quick. This is about a young man named Leonard Peacock who wakes up on his, I believe, 18th birthday. Some sort of birthday. It's his birthday. And he's going to kill his former best friend and then himself. And I really enjoyed it, man. It was depressing, I will say, especially like the entire book, beginning, middle, end, depressing. But I did really enjoy it. I enjoyed the footnotes. I like the writing style. This is something that this is a book I've been looking forward to for a long time. And I'm very happy that it did not disappoint me because it was a lot. It was very emotional, a very emotional time. He goes into detail about why he wants to kill his former best friend, Asher, why he wants to kill himself, all these little things that are just really, all these little details that really fit together really well. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. Probably going to be one of my favorite books of the year. Then I read The Unloved by Saul. And so this is the story of this guy who, when he moved away from his family home when he was, he kind of like ran away. And his family home is this giant mansion in this kind of rundown town in, I believe, Florida, South Carolina, southern town. And he comes home with his children and his wife because his mother is dying. And when his mother dies, he realizes that the will left that if he did not live in the house for at least 10 years, it would be sold to this military academy he was sent to when he was young. And so his sister would have nowhere to go. And then people start dying horribly. This is honestly, I really enjoyed it. It was a lot more kind of pulpy, cheesy horror novel than I've read from Saul recently. I know he wrote a lot of pulpy, cheesy horror novels, but this is really, really one of those. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm not saying it was good. I'm not saying that it was logical, but I am saying that it was fun. And I am saying that all the kills were really fun. And the motivations were fun. They were there. And I ended up really enjoying it. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I don't know if it's one I'm going to keep around, but it's one that I really enjoyed. I thought it was a lot of fun. If you're looking for pulpy horror, this is probably one to go for. Then I read a true crime book that is The Dracula Killer by Lieutenant Ray Biondi and Walt Hecox. This is by Richard Chase, otherwise known as, I believe, the Vampire of Sacramento or something like that, the Vampire Killer. Richard Chase was a spree killer in, I believe, the 70s, where he was severely mentally ill and he believed that there's something wrong with his blood, so he needed to get more. And he like killed and ate a bunch of raw animals before he ended up going to people. And the reason why this case really got as much attention as it did is because he ended up killing and then taking the body of a 2-year-old boy, and it was a big deal. I think there's a picture of the boy before he was like this little boy, and it is a very kind of disturbing case. I will say the case of Richard Chase is one of the most disturbing cases because it is one that you can definitely link back to a lot of things. And the way this book is written is actually it's very interesting. Lieutenant Ray Biondi was the kind of main lieutenant on the case, and so he had a lot. It's a very police procedurally kind of book. He talks about a lot of like false leads they had looking at these killings and stuff like that, because there were a couple people that he killed before he killed, because he shot one guy, and then that kind of broke his seal for killing. He shot and completely mutilated this other woman, and then he shot like a 6-year-old boy, a man. He shot and mutilated another woman, and then he shot and took the body of this little boy. And so that last big massacre scene is kind of what really you think of when you think of Richard Chase. He did have a couple of murders before that, and so it was really interesting to read. This has been a book. This is a book that, like the last podcast on the left used for their Richard Chase episode, and so all the information I pretty much already knew, but it was interesting to read, and I'm very glad that I did read it, and I'm glad that I own the book. Then I finished another book for school that is a separate piece by Knowles. Of course, I've read a separate piece before. I've read it multiple times at this point. It is it's a good book. It's a classic about two boys during World War II, and their massive accident causes one of them to break their leg, and he can no longer be the athlete that he used to be. I'm reading this with the sophomores right now, and as soon as we started it, I think we started discussion for chapters 1 and 2. They're like, are they gay? Because it's a pretty gay book, but it's a fun book. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed reading it this time as I enjoyed reading it all the other times I've read it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's a good time. Then I read another classic, as Billy Budd by Herman Melville. My copy is falling apart. It fell apart as I read it, because that's what happens when I have these old books. It's actually Billy Budd and the Encantadas by Herman Melville. So it's 2 separate little novellas, sort of. Billy Budd is about a young, handsome sailor who is accused of plotting against one of his kind of superiors, and then he ends up accidentally killing him, and then it's like a kind of a struggle because other people, they don't really want to kill this guy, but they have to hang him for murder, and it's that whole struggle. The Encantadas are just a bunch of descriptions of different islands, and I really like some of the descriptions of these islands. There were some that were really interesting. He delved into like history and stuff like that. It was decent. I mean, it's Melville. Melville can write. We all know this. I'm glad I read it. I think I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. It was a good time. This man loves boats. And finally, yesterday, I read this in like one day. Loved it a lot, as Monster by Christopher Pike. I read a couple of Christopher Pike books when I was a kid. I read The Whisper of Death and Chain Letter 2. And as I got older and I started getting more Christopher Pike books again, I grew kind of disappointed because none of them had that same feel as Whisper of Death and Chain Letter 2, and I was wondering, like, is this just because I was young? But no, I found one that is kind of along those same lines. So if you're looking for one that has more of the out-and-out kind of pulpy horror rather than the weird time travel or ancient myth stuff that Pike gets into a lot of stuff, like there's some weird alien stuff in here, but it's very minor, then I would definitely pick up Monster. Monster, like, it starts with a bang. So we start out, we got our main character, Angela, at a party, and then her best friend walks in with a shotgun and kills 2 people. And she goes to go visit her friend. Her friend is like, well, these people are monsters now. They're not real people anymore. And you kind of see that, and you kind of see Angela being a dumb teenager, and it's so much fun. Like, honestly, this is one of my favorite Christopher Pike books that I've ever read. Like, it's so much fun. There's so much death. There's so much killing. There's cannibalism. I loved Kevin so much. I loved him so much. The ending is so bittersweet and weird, and like, I remember I was reading it, I was like, there were 12 pages left. I don't know how this is going to end with it being, you know, at all in a decent way, and it did, and I was really happy about that. I really enjoyed this one. So if you are more of a fan of like the Whisper of Death style rather than the like Midnight Club or what's another one, or See You Later, where it goes into like time travel or past lives or something like that, definitely pick up Monster. I really enjoyed it. So I'm currently reading 2 books now. I'm down to only 2. My Kindle book is, I believe it's still Mordred, The Call of Darkness. I think that's what it's called. I'll put the picture up there. I'm trying to read a chapter a night because I have so much trouble focusing on my Kindle, but I'm trying to do that. And my physical book I'm reading is Wifey by Judy Blume, which is about a depressed housewife. I'm like 50 pages in. Should be a pretty quick. So these are the books that I read this past week. That is all of today. I will talk to you later, and goodbye.